and Zach over the last, Lord, probably 7 weeks now, is just a very long investigation into this extra municipal police group called the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System, or NIPAS. So NIPAS is, as we'll learn, not an organization, not an entity. They're a weird Leviathan like amalgamation of mutual aid contracts and city council resolutions from some 80 to 90 communities in the north suburbs around Chicago. And what they do is they act as a mutual aid organization for those police departments in three ways. One is just normal send foot patrolmen or squad cars to help in natural disasters or stuff like that. The emergency services team, which is their SWAT equivalent, since a lot of towns like Evanston or especially smaller ones out, in the collar counties don't have their own SWAT teams. And the third one, which is what we've been focusing on, is the mobile field force. And they are basically riot cops. They're riot control and protest control. So what we've discovered is that in response to the NU Community Not Cops protests, EPD has been very, very regularly and liberally using the mobile field force in response to them. This started on October 17th, which you might remember is the day that protesters first tore down the "We're in this together" mask sign from Weber Arch and then marched to President Shapiro's house. And since then, they have been activated in some way, which means they're in the street, they're staged, or they're on standby probably about 16 times between October 17th and I'd probably say like November 15th, which is around when in-person stuff stopped because of coronavirus. So the reason I mentioned that they're not an entity is that kind of the difficulties that Sean has been facing with EPD, we've been facing with NIPAS. NIPAS has declared themselves to not be a law enforcement agency or an entity that is subject to freedom of information laws. So we have had to pursue information on them through every other channel available, which includes EPD and the numerous other police departments that make up this organization. And basically what we're trying to figure out this whole time is just, who are these officers that you are deploying from out of town into Evanston to police our streets? Who is calling them out here? And, why? Like, why are you bringing them out so often? And we have just been facing stonewall after stonewall. But more recently, we've published 2 pieces on them, and a kind of quick reaction piece after the Halloween protest where one student was arrested and pepper spray was used, and then a much deeper piece a couple weeks after that. And we are currently working on our third and final one, which is a full retrospective of Halloween that goes into really just how militant and over the top the police presence and response was. What we're finding is that those NIPAS officers came into Halloween with the intent to ratchet up violence, and that is supported both by photos and videos that we have from that night, as well as eyewitness interviews that we've obtained since then. And yeah, we also have a roster of the mobile field force of all 125 officers, including names, not badge numbers, excuse me, names and home departments that we are currently preparing to publish to the public because we are still in the process of fully verifying it. But yeah, it's been a very long journey. Zach, I know that I missed something, so go for it.
Yeah, so we are both writing for a magazine at Northwestern. These are 2 articles, soon to be 3, for a magazine called Seen and Heard. And as Alex said, our main goal in doing all of this is, after witnessing these officers that we didn't know where they were from or what they were called when they first came out. Students had no idea what this organization was. The way that Alex and I had to figure out who they were was by finding photos of the patches on their uniforms and then doing a Google search and online search, because
which I want to
mention, do not reveal their...
Super quickly, hilariously, their emblem is a knight on horseback holding a lance. Just keep that imagery in mind. This is who they think of themselves as.
Yes.
Anyway.
So NIPAS officers, as Alex said, it's a mutual aid agreement is what the vice president calls it. It is a mutual aid agreement between approximately 83 different police departments that are, Evanston buys into this agreement. They pay money to be a member of this agreement. And when needed, they can call upon officers from this agreement to assist them in a, as Alex said, a natural disaster, a protest, like extreme tactical needs, like a barricaded person or something like that. The mobile field force, which consists of both, I guess, more traditional riot cops with shields and batons, and also bicycle mounted officers, have been a staple at the Northwestern student organized protests. And as Alex said, because they are not technically a public body under FOIA law, there is no way to directly send a FOIA request to NIPAS. The way that we are doing it is sending requests to all 83 police departments that are involved, sending multiple requests to Evanston Police. We've probably sent them about a dozen different requests. And finally, we sent a request to the Vernon Hills Police Department, which is about 20 miles away, because their chief of police is the vice president of the board of NIPAS. We also interviewed the vice president of the board of NIPAS, who told us that, as they've been saying, it's not an organization, there's no brick and mortar offices, but at the same time, they have uniforms, they have trucks that have the name NIPAS emblazoned on them, they have employees, secretaries, they have a board, but they're not an organization, according to them. I should note that the night of October 31st, it was in fact a NIPAS officer that arrested a Northwestern student. And it was a NIPAS officer who fired chemical munitions and pepper spray at protesters. And those officers were also carrying other less lethal weaponry, including a less lethal multiple grenade launcher that would fire beanbag rounds, less lethal impact rounds, and stuff like that. Do they have a non-professional charter? As far as I'm aware, no, I don't, nonprofit. Thank you, thank you. No, as far as I've not found anything like that. It's essentially every city has an agreement with them, and they buy into it. Northwestern, I think in the past 5 years has paid about, or sorry, Evanston in the past 5 years has paid about $45,000 to be a member of this. I'm trying to think if Alex and I missed anything.
Yeah.
I think, or actually, I have something else I can say.
Go for it. Go for it.
The goal, in essence, of what we've been reporting is in the spirit of transparency and accountability to just understand who the officers that have been carrying less lethal weaponry and attending protests and being deployed and arresting a student. Simply the basic, their names and what police departments they come from. And we have been met with an extremely negative reaction to that. The president of NIPAS actually filed an affidavit stating that releasing the identities of officers would be a threat to their lives. We don't believe that that is a valid statement because there have been no specific threats made to any officers on NIPAS. And past rulings from the Illinois Attorney General's office have found that simple social media statements and graffiti that might say, ACAB is not a specific enough threat for them to withhold identities. Alex and I have also received emails from different departments that mention the two of our names in reference to a Illinois statewide intelligence and terrorism center. So we do know that NIPAS is monitoring Alex and my social media accounts. We've found records of our tweets and emails. They are monitoring what we publish. And there are 2 emails that we requested that Evanston provide us that include either our names, our emails, or the name of our publication that Evanston would not give us because they, quote, pertain to an active investigation in which no arrests have been made. And the what we had requested in that request was any email records in Evanston Police that have our names, our emails, or the name of our publication, which is seen and heard. So we filed a request for review with the Illinois Attorney General's office, and they said that they would, in fact, review it. And so we should be hearing back from them within the upcoming weeks. We've also sent a request for review to the Vernon Hills Police Department, which handled our biggest FOIA requests, which includes rosters of officers, explaining to the Attorney General's office that we believe it to not be valid for them to withhold the identities of their officers. And the Attorney General's office has also agreed to review that one. So we will be hearing both of those within the upcoming weeks. How much does the city of Evanston pay to be members, and do we know if council voted to allocate funding? I can find the specific. When we asked for Evanston's expenditures, they just gave us a list of checks, but no memos. So we can tell you how much they paid each year, but it doesn't say what the memos for that were redacted. They're just check numbers. I don't know if there's a way to find the memos for that, but I think it was about 45,000 in the past 5 years, and it was pretty equally dispersed throughout the past 5 years.
Yeah. So
Alex, did you want to say something?
Yeah. So with that, with what they're paying, there is a set normal fee of, membership and all that. Training is more or less provided for free, but that is another thing is that NIPAS conducts their own training for officers at a location nearby. I don't remember the name of it, but I can find it. They conduct their own training. They have their own uniforms. They have a 6-figure annual budget with a board of directors, but we're being told that these police officers and this organization that they work for, or entity or whatever you want to call it, are not subject to FOIA. They're not an actual agency, which I will stress that this is basically EPD's go-to. They don't have their own riot control unit. They don't have their own protest control unit. And what we found is that not only in Evanston, but kind of across the region, NIPAS is the go-to. So if you'll remember, which I know that this feels like ages ago at this point because of the pandemic, but if you'll think back to March 2020, just before all the lockdowns went into place, there was a protest at Weber Arch by environmental student group Fossil Free Northwestern, where they blocked the road and occupied space for a while. We weren't even looking for this, but we found out that NIPAS was activated for that protest all the way back in March. And they were kind of the entire North Shore region's contingency plan for if any protest or election unrest happened. And we found extensive yet redacted records on the kind of organization of that deployment and that response plan for the elections. And basically, these officers come from all across, the region. So they could come from as close by as Skokie or Kenilworth, or they could be coming out from, Zion up near Wisconsin, or all the way out in, West Chicago. Not west side of Chicago, like the suburb West Chicago. And they are being treated when they enter town as Illinois police officers. But what we found is that internal correspondence from NIPAS shows that once they were made aware of our kind of investigation, they've actually started implementing internal only ID numbers for the uniforms. They are saying, take your names off of your uniforms, take your departments off your uniforms, only wear the ID numbers that we give you so that you can't be identified. It is pretty chilling. It's pretty alarming that, these, I mean, I'll say it. It's basically like secret police are being brought in from out of town, and we're being told, no, you're not allowed to know who they are. They have jurisdiction. They are being granted jurisdiction in Evanston by the Evanston Police Department. And with, who's calling them in, why are they being called in? It can be Chief Cook. It can be any of the deputy chiefs. It can be any on, like a commander, or I can't remember what the exact criteria was, but basically anyone above sergeant in EPD is able to call out NIPAS at any time. But this is premeditated. This is planned activations. There could be a normal protest that was announced for 6:30 p.m. and we found that the call out time was 10 a.m. is when they started saying, okay, you guys are coming out tonight. So it's well in advance. And they're basically using them as outsourcing. And it's really, frankly, disturbing to us that we're not being given these answers when they're being brought in to police our communities. Why are they not allowed to be accountable to us? I could go on. I have strong feelings, but Zach, if you have anything else you want to wrap up with.
Um, I think the question of funding, the same FOIA request that is under review from Vernon Hills with the Attorney General's office also included requests for who was paying them and how they got their funding. And I do believe that that section is also going to be reviewed. We do know from emails in terms of training, they are offered training from the Department of Homeland Security, and that they are receiving grants from possibly statewide agencies. We just got kind of one chart that just said income and expenses, and it wasn't itemized at all. It was just the year in review kind of. And I'm trying to remember the entire operating cost. It's fairly low. It's probably mid six figures. And I'm trying to remember, I know there's a document that Alex, as you brought up, has the basic membership lists. They're actually trying to recruit more members right now. We found an email. They're trying to get police departments.
Yeah, they're
trying to
basically
get police
saying we need
departments to
more.
give more
We need more
members.
people. We need more people. Give us more people. In response to us saying, "Hey, who are these people?" It's comical almost.
Um, we want to thank Harris and Mr. Watson